Hey, so I am hoping that this is going live and going out okay. Hi, I'm hoping this is going out live okay. I haven't done a live in here for a little while. So, let me get my tea. So I posted in the group the other day asking for your questions because obviously we have our monthly focus and we have our guests and we have our planned training. There's always going to be other questions you have. So I thought I'd do some live Q&As and answer your questions. So I'm not going to do all of the questions per video. I thought maybe just doing one and then it's easy to then put into the portal. Hey Lisa, hi. And today I wanted to talk about just being more consistent with your social media and creating your captions and things. Oh, I really wanted that tea, but it's too hot. So if you've done part of the course in your portal, you'll know that I always talk about being consistent. And part of that is doing and working in batches. So, when you're looking for photos, you would find a whole batch of photos. When you write captions, you might write 3. However, what that doesn't help you do, when I talk about all of that, what it doesn't help you do is actually sit down and be consistent in getting the work done. It helps you be more productive, and in the long run helps you be more consistent online in your tone of voice and how much you produce, but it doesn't actually help you sit down and do the actual work. And I think that can be a really, really difficult thing. So I want to talk today about habit stacking. Now, I think it will be really helpful for content creation, but it's also going to be helpful for other things in your business. And it's finding structure already in your business that you can latch new habits onto. Now, there is a book by a guy called James Clear called Atomic Habits. Now, the caveat is I've not read the entire book. I've read excerpts, and he is the one person that people will talk about when they talk about habit stacking. So I know it's a well thought of book, but I've not actually read it myself. It's, books on your list. Well, that one's the one on my list. So I'm going to recommend it, but only in as much as it's what I've heard other people recommend, and the bits I've read have been good. So with that caveat out the way, what he says is when you want to introduce something new into your working life, the best way to do it is attach it to a habit you already do. So if you think about the habits you already have, let's say getting up. So it might be that the first thing you do is put your glasses on. The first thing you might do is check your phone, open the curtains. So one of my habits for me is when I'm brushing my teeth, I will walk around the top of the house and open the curtains and the blinds while I'm doing my teeth. Kind of signifies the start of my day, but it's a habit that I've got into, and those are paired together. Now, why this works is, now I'm not going to pretend to fully understand the science, but I'm going to give you an overview of it. In your brain, you have all your synapses and made up with neurons, and they create basically the pathways. So when you first start doing something, it's really difficult. And we all know the more you do it, the better you get. Now, partly that's because of just obviously the practice makes those pathways stronger. So it's easier for your brain to access that information of how to do that task. But also what your brain does is it prunes away other things that it doesn't need to make room for those tasks. So it goes through and works out what other pathways perhaps won't be needed, and what other information it doesn't need. So it strengthens those pathways so that you can actually do the task better and easier. So when you habit stack, if you are trying to do something new, if you bolt it onto something you already do as a habit and a task you don't need to think about, it is easier for you to manage that new task. Now, what he does suggest is being really specific. So, for example, if you say, when I finish work, well, I use his example. He says, you can't say, when I finish work, I'm going to do 10 press ups. It's not specific enough. But what you might say is, when I close my laptop, I will do 10 press ups. And you start small, like really small. So, in terms of consistency, you need to scale back what you're expecting of yourself. So instead of thinking 3 posts a week, maybe just start with 1. So first of all, cut back your expectations and pressure on what you're going to do. Because once you start lower and you can achieve that, it will be easier to then build upon. And then what you need to do is have a real good look at what structure you already have that works, which you always do. So, on a Monday morning, for me, it's almost like a CEO day. I do my analytics for my clients. I always get my inbox sorted on a Monday. So have a look in the structure of your day. What habits do you already have that are in place already, which are solid? And they can be the starting point for you then adding in creating your content. So it could be that you could say, after I break for lunch, the first job I do when I open up my computer will be content related. So every work day, on a lunch day, you're going to have, even if it's a 10-minute block, don't go crazy. If you can't, don't necessarily put an hour in. Maybe it's going to be 10 minutes a day as soon as you start work after lunch. So as soon as you sit down and either put your computer on, put your laptop up, set a timer, and that's going to be your 10-minute content block. Now, once that becomes the habit, you might then say, okay, I'm going to make it 20 minutes. And you might find that 20 minutes a day over the week is enough to get the content done that you need. And then once that's the habit, you can then start changing your habit and stacking it differently. So you might say, I'm going to do 20 minutes 3 days a week, and on the other 2 days you replace that habit, or you change it up because you've got it solid and locked into your framework of habits. Now, it's a little bit counterintuitive for us business peeps, because a lot of the reason that we set up our business is because we like the flexibility. We like to be able to say, well, I get to choose what I do. I'm my own boss. I'm going to choose what I'm going to do and the way I'm going to do it. And that is true. But as a responsible business owner, we also need to recognize that we need our own boundaries and structures in place if we're going to actually get stuff done. Now, for you, a habit stack might not work 10 minutes every day, because you might find by the time you just kind of get into it, it's not enough. So maybe for you, if you feel like that, your habit might be linked to something on a particular day. So you might say, on a Monday morning, the very first task I do for work is going to be content creation. You set your timer for an hour, and that's what you're going to do that week. But you must try and link it to a particular habit you already have. So if you think about it in terms of consistency, I am pretty sure you consistently check emails, or you consistently check in with friends on Facebook or wherever you like to chat, Instagram or wherever. There are going to be habits you have that you will be able to bolt your content creation onto. And that's the start of getting consistent, not just with the actual what you're posting, because that comes from batching. So picking all your photos at the same time, working out like your month plan, and just literally just writing in your headlines about what you're going to talk about. That's where the consistency comes from in terms of themes and topic and branding and being the expert. But in terms of actually sitting down and getting the stuff done in a consistent manner, then that comes from putting it in a way in your week where it's less likely to be disrupted, less likely to be moved, and that the best way is by putting it next to something you already do that is a habit that you do without thinking. So I'm not quite sure it was Dominique and Evie asked about consistency, and I'm not quite sure which one you were talking about. So I'm hoping I've covered both in terms of consistency, outward facing in a way of like how much you put out and how it's received by your audience, but also consistency in how you actually get the job done and put it in your week. So Lisa said, definitely need to try this. I'm useless at planning my content for social media. So yeah, fine. It doesn't even have to be in your work day necessarily. If you're not at a desk at a particular time, you might not. Maybe your desk is on your phone. Maybe you don't work at a laptop, or you're governed by things in the week, which children going to school or their clubs and things. So it's going to be finding the right place to stack the habit for you, and that might not be something you already do for work. But you definitely have habits there that you can work on, and it might be just for a while you need to switch out something. So you might, let's say, when you finish work at the end of the day, you then always scroll Facebook or Instagram before you actually finish. Well, maybe maybe the new habit goes in between those two things. Maybe you finish work 20 minutes earlier, but before you get to scroll on Instagram and kind of wind down, maybe that's where the content creation goes. So yeah, just you get lost in creating. I know. And so maybe for you, your habit, so Lisa said that she gets lost in creating. Maybe for you, you need to find a habit at the end of the day so that if it does go on for an hour, it doesn't get in the way of another part of the job. Or you need to find a bigger time gap and think you're going to get lost in it. It's going to take you a little while to do. So find a bigger gap and then put it after a habit that's solid where you're going to have like an hour free afterwards. Are there any more questions before we finish for the morning? I'm hoping that these could be quite helpful and you won't have to have like a whole hour. Who have we got? Lisa. I know we've got someone else here too. Are there any more questions before I finish up? Okay, cool. I think we're good. So I'm going to leave it there. If this is a topic that you want covered in more depth, let me know because we can cover this more fully at a later date. But yeah, it was lovely to talk with you, and thanks for joining me, and I will see you all soon. Bye.